we're getting close to the end of this. Part 11. And the two books are actually a marriage of a two. And that is Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. And those books, the formula we've heard a lot about through all the books that we went through, everything we've done. Alice in Wonderland grabs that formula and goes, there's nothing here. You can't do anything here. And they are right. What the book Carol, you are one in a billion. Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass is about revolve around Alice. She follows a white rabbit, goes down a rabbit hole, and no one understands. That's a lot we hear about, that the book author was probably on LSD, or that he was really high. Maybe he was a Mad Hatter. I mean, he had Mad Hatter, he had the Monarch Hair, he had the Queen of Hearts, he had the White Rabbit. He had all those characters that we all know and love. That's in Alice in Wonderland. And, also the Cheshire Cat, sorry. Cannot forget the Cheshire Cat. But they're all over the place, and it's really all over the place. What is the point? What does this make? What is the tea party that never ends with the Mad Hatter and the Monarch Hair? What is playing croquet with a hedgehog and a flamingo with the Queen of Hearts? What is the Cheshire Cat and the Duchess, whose baby she's tending is really a pig? The whole thing doesn't make sense. And then you have Through the Looking Glass, the sequel. That's right, a sequel. And in that one, that has the famous Tweedledee and Tweedledum. That one, there's the Red Queen and the White Queen. That one is more, the land is a chessboard. There's a king that fumbles and follies. There's a knight. Whenever he gets on his horse, he always falls. It doesn't make sense. She talks to Humpty Dumpty. Was this guy on the acid? Was this guy really? That's what a lot of people say. But I'm going to tell you something. This one, when I did this challenge, when I wanted to sit down and listen to all these children's classics back to back to back, this was the first time in my life I actually listened to Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I've heard a lot about him. I've seen the Disney movie, but I never really experienced it. And when I sit down and listen to this, all of it, I realize something. The man is a genius. He wasn't drugged up as many people think. I think what Alice in Wonderland is, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, is actually determining, are you right-brained or left-brained? Are you more creative, or are you more into common sense? Are you more into logic? Are you more into imagination? Are you more into thought? Are you more into thinking things out, or letting things just be? Those two parts of our brains, those two pieces that makes, well, thinking, or logic, or sense. That's what Alice in Wonderland is. It can tell who you are when you read these books. Because if you're someone that sees more logic, if you're someone that sees more, the world is, that cloud is a cloud, or someone that has imagination says that cloud is a bunny, but yet you still have common sense, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass may look nothing. It has no sense. It has no rhyme. It has no reason. It is just crazy. But if you're more creative, have a more the mind where you look at where you look in the sky and you see a storybook in the clouds, where you can look down at water you're washing a car and you see water going from the car to a drain. You could see rivers, you could see islands, you could see oceans or maps. Alice in Wonderland, when you read Alice in Wonderland and have that form of thinking, you see inspiration, you see not logic, but you see a rhythm, you see something. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland becomes a Rorschach test, and you're going, what is it? You're not trying to understand Alice in Wonderland. You are trying to see what Carroll, the book author, I mess up with names a lot, but I know his last name is Carroll. I think I could be wrong. But you see something in Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's very unique. It really is. Because in Alice in Wonderland, when she talks about conversations with a mouse. Well, it's not that she talks about conversations. She has a conversation with the mouse, and she loves her cat. And the mouse is going, how dare you? How dare you? I mean, of course, it's a talking mouse. And you want to talk about your cat? That's insensitive. That sounds weird. But here's something. When I was going through Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, there's something about me you need to know is I have a learning disability called language impediment. Language impediment, I think. And I had speech therapy ever since I was 5. So it's been well over 25 years. And reading these books and seeing her conversation with the mouse at the beginning of Alice in Wonderland, and then her having a conversation with the Queen of Hearts at the end of Alice in Wonderland, with my mindset, with my brain being drilled about Bullfrog. Understand the flow of a conversation. Don't hog it. Let someone else talk. Look at nonverbal cues. What emotions they're saying. What is the meaning of a conversation? What does a conversation lead to? What does a conversation mean? Alice in Wonderland goes through it. Because at the beginning, she talks a lot about her cat. She's obsessed about her cat. She talks to her cat to a mouse. But at the end, she doesn't talk about her cat. She talks to the Queen of Hearts, and there's more of a conversation between her and the Queen of Hearts. I can help with my disability and the learning I had to do to understand conversations in order to understand people. I thought Alice in Wonderland was more about children trying to understand the world of conversations. How conversations can be hindered from a child, but through learning, you can actually have a conversation and have a better, healthier conversation with people. At the end of Alice in Wonderland, how she talks to the Queen of Hearts. And then, Through the Looking Glass, there's a very not really iconic, but very important for me, because again, I was learning how to understand conversations. I had to understand how to go through how a conversation works. Don't hog the ball. Let someone talk. Let someone have it. And then also how a conversation can begin one way and it transitions to something totally different. And in Through the Looking Glass, she talks to Humpty Dumpty, and I quote from Through the Looking Glass, This man was treating a conversation as if it was a game. And someone of my disability, I actually had to learn how to have a conversation viva through a game. Consider a conversation a ball. You have to pass to each other. You say something, the ball is passed, and someone else gets it, and then they talk. And then they go, pass, vice versa. That is a conversation. It's passing the ball. And I can't help but wonder if Carroll had that understanding that through a child, to teach them conversations, you have to treat it like a game. And a conversation game now is actually probably helping a lot of children understanding conversations. And what they have with this learning disabilities, it's harder for us. And yet, if you treat it more like a game with a set of rules, it shows how a conversation works. And reading Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, I couldn't help but realize how much of a rhythm there was, how much of a lesson of conversation it is. And through that part of me, listening to these books, whoa, that was amazing. And the imagination of Alice in Wonderland is unfathomable. It has probably inspired so many book authors. I mean, I know there's like 3 different book series that are based on Alice in Wonderland that have been released in the past 20 years. I mean, maybe a decade. I mean, these books left an imprint on literature, on children's literature. And a lot of people may think this guy is high, while other people will read it and go, inspiration. And, I mean, this wasn't from Alice in Wonderland. This is not because of Alice in Wonderland, but this is my original. I did this big painting for a book series, attempting to write a book series. So I have a love of imagination. I have a love of creating things. None of this is real. But after listening to Alice in Wonderland, within 5 minutes, I had a small thing written out. I was so infected by Alice in Wonderland. And Through the Looking Glass, wow. I really liked it. It was really eye-opening on a different level. And I could see why Alice in Wonderland may be viewed as or inspiration. I mean, it's been done constantly. There's the Disney movie. There's the Tim Burton movie. I know there's some TV show drama beats they try to do with Alice in Wonderland, trying to do it live action. There's been a lot with Alice in Wonderland. And here's a fun thing you should know. Alice in Wonderland may be responsible for Walt Disney. I mean, Walt Disney loved Alice in Wonderland. He loved reading it. One of his first shorts he filmed his niece, and it was her going through the looking glass to experience Wonderland. And that was his first animated bit. And he's done a lot of movies based on books. There's only 2 movies he wanted to stay close to the book. One of them was Mary Poppins. The second one was Alice in Wonderland. And Alice in Wonderland is not really responsible, but inspired Walt Disney. Walt Disney loved Alice in Wonderland. And as many people like to bash that it was really psychedelic, I can't help but go, maybe Alice in Wonderland is actually, again, if you get the right person with the right mind going through this book, it can inspire something big. I mean, again, Walt Disney, boom, found that inspiration. Famous artists, boom. I mean, Bob Kane, the man who created Batman. You could see the touch of Alice in Wonderland in him. Boom! Alice in Wonderland, if given to the right person, reading it and have inspiration blow up, it's amazing what people can do. It is amazing, and this is the last movie bit. I've done, 11 of these, or 12. I'm getting my numbers mixed up, but it's been a long journey, and I loved it. And to read these books and then go, wait a minute, this is probably why they're famous. Because they have awakened imagination. They have taught lessons. They have given power and didn't treat kids with kid gloves. They talk to kids on a mature level, and adults, when they read these books, all these books I went over, all these books I've done with adults, they can look back and see more of these lessons. They could look back in nostalgia. They could look back and not feel being talked down. An adult can read it and feel like it is more of a subject for adults. All these books, Jungle Book, A Little Princess, Secret Garden, Treasure Island, Captain Hook. I mean, not Captain Hook. Peter Pan. I am sorry. I am way out of it. But Peter Pan. Huckleberry Finn. Tom Sawyer. And Alice in Wonderland. All these books, all these things, seeing their, probably having a better understanding of their immortality and the formula, teacher, student, class. You can't help but realize that a lot of popular books today, if they use the formula right, are big. Harry Potter is a blatant example of it. Brandon Mole's Fablehaven series is an example of it. All these children books, when they're done right, follow that formula, but yet they do it in their own way. If you do it in your own way, if you do it in your own rhythm, and create good characters and good meaning, or the imagination at the right level, you can do it right. And this is a Bullfrog deep dive. Again, it's been long. It's been chaotic. Well, chaotic as my brain's all out. With drinking pauses. Interruptions. I loved doing this with you guys. I loved letting this all out. I have no big YouTube following. I didn't do YouTube for fame or for money. I did YouTube because of these deep dives. Facebook doesn't really have a playlist system. You can't just do all these videos, post them, and then have them be bind together. You can't do that on Facebook, but on YouTube you can, and this is the real reason why I went on YouTube just for these. No one will probably listen to these, right now I have 2 subscribers, that's it. Very few little views. I'm probably at the bottom of the scrap heap of this pail. But doing this study, learning so much, and reading children's classics I haven't read, studying children's classics and see what they lead to, it's kind of amazing, this great journey. And I liked it. It was fun to learn. And it takes them in a more deeper meaning, and I could see why adults would read these books to their children, and why people would deserve to kind of read them. There are lessons there, fun, there's imagination, there's lore, and sometimes it's just plain neat to look back at that nostalgia. And this has been an epic deep dive. And this is the Bullfrog signing out with a little croak of a ribbit.